of Maryland, the top Democrat on the House Judiciary Committee. Congressman Raskin, always wonderful to see you. Thank you so much for being in the arena. I want to start with what the Supreme Court discussed here today. They seemed open to limiting the ability of district court judges to issue nationwide injunctions. Do you think there's potential validity to that?
Not really. It would mean, for example, in this case on birthright citizenship, that every family in America that might be affected, or every person who might be affected, would have to go themselves to court to sue. And that's enormously inefficient and really unmanageable. And it doesn't make any sense. It would be like saying if, the schools were discriminating today, that it wouldn't be enough to get one case going up to the Supreme Court on school segregation. Everybody who was being discriminated against would have to go in their own district. And so I don't see the logic of that. I know that some of the justices are trying to avoid dealing with the substance of this case about birthright citizenship, but that's because it's so clearly a loser for the Trump administration. There are 4 district court rulings all against Trump on this, 2 Republican-appointed judges, one from a Bush nominee, one from a Reagan nominee, an Obama and a Biden judge. And the Reagan judge said it was the easiest case he'd ever decided in 4 decades because it so clearly contradicts the first sentence of the 14th Amendment, which just says all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States.
Congressman, if the Supreme Court were to limit on the underlying issue, as you point out, or you suggest that they're trying to avoid doing so, but if they were to weigh in on the ultimate legality of ending birthright citizenship and they prevented President Trump from doing that, are you convinced that he would abide by that ruling?
Well, I think he would have to. It would be very difficult for him to get around it. I suppose he could say, for example, don't give passports to any U.S. citizens who would not be citizens in his view, or to deny Social Security payments to U.S. citizens who are not citizens in his view. But I think that the courts would reject that. Like Judge Boasberg, who was a Bush appointee to the court originally, he has said there's probable cause to find that the Trump administration is in contempt of his orders by not ordering those planes to come back that they had sent off with a bunch of people to El Salvador without any due process. So I think that it actually turns out to be very difficult to defy the authority of the court.
Congressman, let me switch gears, because one of the things, of course, that has dominated conversations recently is the president's interest in accepting a $400 million plus gift from the Qatari government in the form of a 747 that would serve as Air Force One. Under normal procedure, emoluments, gifts to presidents from foreign leaders and foreign nations, not allowed unless Congress says okay. Is there any way in which Congress weighs in here? Is there anything Democrats might or could do to force something like that?
Well, we introduced a resolution by all the Judiciary Democrats yesterday demanding that Donald Trump bring his proposed $400 million flying gift from the Qatari government to Congress so we could pass upon it and either vote to approve it or disapprove it. This is what every other president in all of American history has done. When Abraham Lincoln got 2 beautiful elephant tusks from the King of Siam in the middle of the Civil War, he thought it was that important to come to Congress, and he asked whether he could keep them, and Congress actually said no. We love you, Honest Abe, you're doing a great job in the war, but no, deposit those with the Department of Interior. I don't know how much those were worth in those days, but maybe a couple $100. Here we're talking about a $400 million gift that is also riddled with all kinds of national security problems. It could set the stage for surveillance and espionage and so on. So it's a very complicated thing, and that's why the framers in their wisdom guaranteed that Congress would have to review a proposed present like this to the President of the United States.
It would, of course, have the ultimate effect also of putting Republicans on the record as to where they stand on this particular matter. Congressman Jamie Raskin, I have quite a few more questions for you, but I'm being told that you have to run and go vote.